We're here at the Gander Mountain Academy virtual range today, and I'm with Jay White, one of the lead instructors for Gander Mountain Academy, to talk about lasers on defensive firearms. Jay, what's your opinion?
Well, lasers constitute many different uses. What I try to impart to our students and the people that walk through our doors is that lasers can often become what we call a crutch, to where they rely on the laser, the beam on the target, for their training to encourage them to be accurate, when in effect what it's doing is it's undermining their ability to be able to create those abilities without the effect of the laser. When they use the laser and make that something that helps them shoot, lasers fail. They're battery powered. They're not always going to be working in the situations you might think they need to work in. So we need to know how to use that particular firearm without the laser, gain that confidence and that knowledge of how that firearm works, as well as how you work with it.
Now let's take a look, because I've seen exactly the same thing with a lot of students. And let's take a look and see exactly what we're talking about. When we say that people are using the laser as a crutch, what we look at is their general shooting fundamentals. You know, a good squared off stance, oriented towards the threat, full extension with the gun in and parallel with their line of sight. Now if I wanted to use my sights right now, I could, and if I don't want to use my sights, I don't need to. The gun is, and of course this is a blue gun, the gun is exactly where I want it to be in relation to my line of sight to be able to do sighted fire. However, with a laser, because the laser dot is relatively small and the gun and the hands do take up a lot of the field of vision at extension, what we end up with is a lot of people dropping the gun down and bring their head up in order to see where the laser dot actually is on the target. They might even compress their elbows a little bit and end up in this kind of a compressed position just so they can see that laser. Well, of course, I can hit the target with the laser in what ends up being a bad fundamental shooting position, and one that's definitely not congruent with full extension. So how do you suggest people train to use the laser?
Well, pretty much with those suggestions that you just brought up is that you need to know how to shoot. You need to know how to implement the fundamentals before you rely on a laser. It can be used as an aspect of what you're doing in a defensive shooting or with your practicing. Such as, for example, when we have people taking our concealed firearms classes, they're using their firearm, a live firearm, on our live fire range. Many times I will see them turn their laser on. I completely tell them, let's have that laser off. You're not always going to have that laser. You're not always going to have that gun with the laser. It's not always going to be fully working when you need it. Why rely on it? Work to the worst case scenario, perfect your fundamentals and your techniques without it, and then everything on top of that is just basically a bonus.
And this goes directly in line with what I usually advise people, which is that the laser is a tertiary aiming device. It's the third aiming device we're going to use. Primary alignment in defensive shooting situations is going to be kinesthetic. Drive the gun out in and parallel with the line of sight, train to get the gun in a good consistent grip, in a good consistent extended position, squared off and focused on the threat. Secondary aiming is going to be done with the iron sight. So now I can actually align the iron sights. I'm going to close an eye, focus on the front sight, pick it up, put that front sight in the notch, superimpose it over the target, smooth press of the trigger while maintaining that sight alignment and sight picture. The tertiary aiming device, the laser, comes in handy in extreme situations. So one of those extreme situations might be if I were injured and I couldn't get to full extension, if I needed to know where the gun was pointed, but I can't get it into a shooting position. Another extreme situation, like the one depicted here, is that the white target in the center is a high contrast target, very easy to see even the small sights that would be on this defensive, J-frame size revolver. But if we go to one of the darker targets in the back, if the target's dark and the sights are dark and the environment's dark, I may not be able to clearly see my sights. I can turn the laser on and know exactly where this gun is pointed using that tertiary aiming device. Jay, I think Gander Mountain Academy is one of the leading training facilities in the country. They're very progressive in the way they think, and they understand how to teach people how to use accessories like these, which could save your life in an extreme situation properly and efficiently. Appreciate it, Jay.
Not a problem, Rob. Thank you very much.